Great. Hello, good evening and welcome. My name is Niall McKay and I am the Executive Director of Irish Screen America, and tonight we are coming to you from the wonderful Shillelagh Studios in Shillelagh, County Wicklow. And yes, Shillelagh is a real place, the People's Republic of, and it's not just something out of a Wild Mountain Thyme film or something like that. But we are here bringing to you this wonderful Zoom chat this evening. And tonight our guests are, and maybe you would like to wave when I mention your name, the wonderful Kathleen O'Rourke, who's Granny O'Grim. Give it a little wave, it's fantastic. And then we shall jet up the coast to Newry in County Down. County Down, okay, because you're in two counties there, isn't that right?
Yeah, County Armagh and County Down.
Yeah, so Cathy Brady is there in Newry, and then we're going to pop across the island to see the smoking Donall O Healai, and that's not because of smoking a cigarette, by the way, but Donall, would you like to give us a little wave? Great. And we are then going to, and Donall is looking out his window over across the Atlantic to the wonderful Sarah Street, who's joining us, and then we are going to skip those kind of middle counties, states in America, and jet straight over from New York to California, and we are going to meet with Owen Egan. Owen, do you like? Yep.
Good evening, everyone.
And then last of not least, of course, we are going to talk to the Rachel Rath.
Yay!
You know, so grand. So we have a couple of announcements. We are our Screen America is partnering with the Galway Film FLA, and we are bringing the sort of kind of foundation films of the Irish film industry. You know, Korea, Puccin, Reefer in the Model, all these wonderful films. So they will be available online over Christmas, and we are promoting them with the Galway Film FLA. So there'll be more information on the email that you get after this event, and also on our website at irishscreenamerica.com. Also, Marisa, would you like to join us for a sec? Marisa has a radio play. Tell us about your radio play, Marisa.
My radio play is called The Morrigan. It is going to be broadcast tomorrow at 3 p.m. Irish time on Dublin City FM. It's the story of Ella Young, real life Ella Young, and her experiences during the 1900s with historical icons Maud Gonne, Countess Markievicz, and The Morrigan. So it sort of blends historical fiction, fact with fiction, and Celtic myth.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Don't worry, we won't start selling you jumpers and slippers or anything like that, but you have to say that. We do have one other announcement, which is, of course, that we've qualified The Ferry, which is a film that is very much dear to ISA, because I wrote it and directed it, and Marisa produced it, and Rachel acted in it, and Clodagh Boyer, of course, starred in it. And we've qualified that for the Academy, which it just means that they've accepted our application, in fact. So if you are on the Academy or know anybody on the Academy, go twist their arm, tell them to vote for it. And hopefully I'm not breaking any Academy rules there. But also, talking of the Academy, don't forget that Cartoon Saloon's Wolf Walkers is on Apple iTunes. It's fantastic. We watched it the other night. We laughed, we cried. I was scared at places. You know, it's a really wonderful animation, and of course that is going to also hopefully go for an Academy Award. Hopefully get nominated for an Academy Award. So, moving straight along, and not to make you nervous at all, Kathleen, but speaking of academies. Kathleen O'Rourke was, of course, nominated with the film Granny O'Grim's Sleeping Beauty. She embodied the character Granny O'Grim. And Kathleen, would you like to tell us just a little bit about how you came up with the character?
Yeah, so at the time I was part of a cabaret show called The Fallen Angels, which we performed around Ireland, mostly Dublin, the Spiegel tent and things like that. So, but I was also doing my teacher training, and so we were learning about fairy tales, the psychoanalysis of fairy tales. I mean, I'm making it seem all very intellectual, but anyway, I suppose I just became really obsessed with it, because it is. I became really obsessed with fairy tales and just the darkness of them and the manipulative edge to them and how inappropriate they actually are for children ultimately. So, and then it was actually a friend of mine and I were kind of messing around with the Cookie Monster puppet, as you do on a Friday night in your 20s. And so that's Granny O Grimm was kind of born in that moment, like this character who would tell these really inappropriate stories to children, as in, you know, scary stories about like Hansel and Gretel, for example. That was the very first Granny Grimm sketch. So that was kind of the very sort of genesis of the idea. And then I developed the character as part of the Fallen Angels cabaret. Then I tended to write it kind of just before I went on stage because I suppose I naturally embody Granny. I've been called Granny since I was about 7 years of age. So it all came very naturally. So yeah, so that was where she came from, as well as from all the deep-seated rage that I'd built up by that stage of my life as well.
And speaking, well, I think we have a little clip, which is a Christmas card. Eve, are we able to bring up the Granny O Grimm's Christmas card for us?
Yeah. Oh, that's the wrong one. One job. Bear with me now, I don't actually know how to go backwards. Here we go. I did actually practice this.
It's no problem.
You should want me to sing it live. Delighted.
Off you go, Cathy.
It's so long.
No, and that's the wrong one too. So
Shall we move on?
yeah, let's move on, and I'll have it ready for the end.
We'll go for the clip at the end, yeah. Now, Kathleen, speaking of deep-seated rage, there's a lot of sort of matriarchal. It would be very familiar to, well, not just Irish people, but certainly to Irish people. There's a sort of not just a matriarchal voice in the character, but also I think, you know, a voice that lives in many Irish people's heads. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you know, come up with the script for that and talk about the you know.
Yeah, well, my mom's not here, so yeah, I'm totally happy to get stuck in with that. She could, I haven't told her. Yeah, so, sorry, so you're just talking about where the maternal... Yeah, so being honest, like going right back, I suppose all my comedy, all my most successful comedy sketches, stand-up, everything, there would have been a strong maternal voice there. So I was just blessed with a great muse, woman with a great sense of humor in my life who reared me. You know, there are other relatives as well who wouldn't want to be mentioned who may have, you know, had some influences. I know that, like, obviously I want to be careful, but I know that my mother was actually very proud of Granny Grimm. I think she felt like she was the celebrity. She was, you know, yeah, and even like in my hometown, actually around the time of the Oscars, people would stop my parents all the time. They became these celebrities. And when I started, if I was with them, nobody was interested in me. They just wanted to know, your daughter went to the Oscars. And they'd give me the cold shoulder if I showed up in the flesh. So, but the reality of it is, yeah, there was, my mom was definitely part of that character. There were other characters there as well, and she didn't want to be overshadowed by them. You know, she wanted all the credit. So yeah, it's just that generation had a big influence on it.
And I suppose it's a blessing and a curse in a way to be sort of, because, you know, like you could be led by, or you could have Granny O Grimm's voice in your head when you're trying to achieve great things, or
yeah,
you know,
or just get through your day, or, you know, clean the house, or achieve something worthwhile. Absolutely, yeah, yeah, totally. And honestly, I mean, I kind of grew to accept that, because in recent kind of couple of years, the big project I worked on, which unfortunately now is still kind of, you know, hasn't been broadcast yet, but myself and a comedian called Gerard Farrelly, we worked on an idea with the BBC. The BBC studios are out there. and completely maternal voice in there again, kind of very strong female character with adult children. But I kind of just grew to accept that that's where my strength is, and that's the inspiration I was given, and just have to go with it, and then avoid my parents for periods of time every year. It's worth it, completely worth it. I'm sure they'd agree.
But it's a fantastic piece of work. I mean, not only just because it kind of melds, myth with and with Ireland, but also it's really about working from the inside out, in terms of how you, even when it is comic or whatever. And we will we'll just jet up the coast now to Cathy Brady, who is in Uri. And Cathy, of course, has been with us a number of times with Irish Screen America. She was out with us with her film Morning, which won the European Academy Award. But her most recent project is a film called Wildfire, which, Cathy, you've been developing for a number of years, and again, this idea of working with characters and with, to really develop something from the inside. Would you like to tell us a little bit? I mean, you've had great success with it. It's won an award at the London Film Festival and has been playing all over, unfortunately on the online film festivals, which I know you're not that happy about, but would you like to tell us a little bit about how you came to the story and yeah.
Well, listen, yeah, ideally it would be great to be seeing the film with an audience, but it's like opportunities like this, like, we got to make the most of it. We got to get online and connect and find a way to make the connection. So I am grateful it's out there. I think with Wildfire, I guess kind of first and foremost, it really was casting first. And I had worked with Nika on Can't Cope, Won't Cope, and I had worked with Nora Jane Noon on both Small Change and Wasted. So I had a real sense of both these actors' range, but equally I knew that they had remarkable range, the ability to be incredibly fierce and incredibly vulnerable. And I don't mean in a way where they're projected, I mean they would wholeheartedly embrace it, and they would want to get inside and wanted to figure it out and want to go on a process. So I approached them and I said, listen, I'd love to work with both of you together. And we had a meeting over a pint of Guinness, like you do. And I sat back and I knew I had something. And it really was remarkable because it was like seeing like a yin and a yang just kind of click into place. And they were so complementary because they had shared integrity, but they still had different ways of getting to character. And we really began building from the ground up. So it was a case of, there was a documentary in particular that really inspired the film, which was called Badness in the Fast Lane, about these twin sisters who had a shared psychosis. So we went on a journey of building fact and fiction hand in hand. And the more we sort of researched what psychosis was and codependent bonds, learning about transgenerational trauma in a border town, the more it kind of fed into the character. So it was this back and forward character faction. And it did take 5 years to make. And I was very impatient within those 5 years, but when I look back now, I think the story is incredibly rich for that. It's a film that's very much, it's a character-driven film, and I think it really is because it was casted first. I didn't go with a plot and go, okay, I'm going to research my plot. I said, this is my actors, this is the energy I want to explore, let's find the characters.
Wonderful. And I think, Eve, how are you feeling there with the technological? We have a very short clip of you working with Nika and Nora Jane.
Let's try. Let's go into Netflix again for us. Bear with me.
They never work with children and animals, but technology is definitely up there, particularly when we're working with new technologies. So.
I also heard on this set there was like here, anyway, I'll let you watch it.
I helped build Kelly and kind of developed her. She has been living away from home. Her sister's thought she's been missing for a couple of years. And it's basically about her coming home and coming to terms with the breakdown of the relationship with her mother and her understanding of herself.
There's a lot of hurt and anger directed at Kelly and wanting to know why and wanting to know where she's been and is she okay. Get out, Kelly. Please, get out. Please, I don't want to be on my own.
There's a very honest conversation that happens continually between Cathy and I. I feel very, very lucky to have that relationship.
I feel really, really grateful to have met two creative people that I just feel like I get on a real soul level.
Thanks, Eve. Well done. Now, I don't want to talk about this too much because, Nika sadly passed away and I don't want to cry because I loved her, as we all did. But can you tell me what your experience since then has been like, with because it's an odd one where you're having this tremendous success with the film and yet I presume a great sadness as well.
Yeah, it's just the whole process of finishing the film really became very difficult because it happened while we were in post-production. So, it felt like a Herculean effort to finish the film. And when we got the news that we got into Toronto on the anniversary of her 1-year anniversary of her death, which felt very significant. And I kind of felt that it just gave me the strength to carry on, to kind of believe that she was still on a journey with us. And what's incredibly powerful is that when people do take the time to reach out to me and say, this character really moved me, this really affected me, I'm proud of Nick, I'm proud of Nora Jane, and what's powerful is the legacy of both their work, and Nika's especially. We managed to capture something as painful as that was in post-production, like to finish the film without her. Like, she gave everything to that character, and it really feels like a gift to have this film. The experience of, I'm yet to see the film with an audience, and maybe that's a blessing in some way. Maybe it would be too painful, but I feel that in a way the film is done, everything is done, and it's released, it's out there in the world, and I hope it really manages to the people who need to see it or who are affected by it. It means something to them.
Yeah. Well, we shall look forward to it. Is it being released online soon, or are you waiting for cinema release?
We have a theatrical release in the UK and Ireland for next year.
Oh,
so so we'll go with theatrical, and I'm sure there'll be a video on demand element to that as well.
Yeah, and what we'll do at the end of when we send out an email after this, we'll put links to the websites and stuff where you can keep track of that information and where it's going to go. Jetting across the country to Donall O Healai, and it's great that you two guys are on the same call because you've worked together, I know, in workshops and stuff like that, and both strike me as people who work very much in the same way in this kind of inside from a deep inside point, and anybody who knows Donall will know that there is depth there. He's also a very good-looking man, but that's but I'm just embarrassing you, Donall. But yeah, Donall, you've just worked. You've been on Arapt, which of course is the Irish language Oscar nomination this year, or put forward for an Irish language Oscar, which is well worth an applause. Can you tell us a little bit about how you worked on the character and how you embodied the character?
Sure thing. Yeah. It's really nice to be here amongst friends, firstly, and just before I get into the character, I was lucky enough to see Wildfire at Cork online, and the film absolutely moved me, and its performances, and it's such a beautiful piece of work, and I just want to say that it's an amazing piece of work, and I look forward for it to get out there amongst others. So yeah. And Niall, we're delighted, I guess, about Aract in terms of getting the nomination. it's a great honor for us. For a small film, you know, we had a budget, I think, of 1.2 million. The film was shot in 20 days, and it was a brave undertaking. So when we got that news, it really it brought a smile to all of our faces, because of, you know, we shot in October, November in the elements, and it was a very much an outdoor film. So we got tight as a crew and as a cast. And so yeah, it's fantastic to be in the running. Obviously, it's a hugely competitive category, like, but to be in the running is really sweet.
Yeah, and you, I mean, you were running around in you know, caves and stuff like that on the west coast of Ireland in October, swimming in the sea and all this. You know, this was before all these, you know, robes and stuff came in, and sea swimming. But you know, it must have been, and also I believe like you had to lose a lot of weight for the part, which is obviously. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Sure thing. So I guess when Tom sent me the script initially, I kind of knew from reading it that the famine would really be portrayed through Coleman, the character I play, through his body. You know, we didn't have the money to show loads of starving extras as such, so we focused on Coleman. So I knew that, I guess, as an Irish person, both as an Irish actor and as an Irish person, I wanted to do, you know, to give the story its just and to give the character its just, and so it was very important to do that. So the weight loss was a part of it. There was a nutritionist who was brilliant with me, and yeah, well, I was living in New York at the time, and it wasn't the easiest thing to walk by loads of bakeries and you know, burger joints and all of the good stuff, but it was definitely worth it. And I think as an actor, I'm always looking for an into any character, and it was actually perhaps the most immersive experience I had performance-wise to date in that regard. So it was a tremendous gift as well as a challenge. Yeah.
And I remember meeting you for your weekly bowl of soup in New York, in Soho Yen in the West Village. But you had lost, like, what was it?
4 stone in 4 months.
Oh God, yeah.
There's probably people there who'd say I needed to lose a few of them anyway. You know what I mean? You know, but no, but a great way to work. And you know, I worked with Tom Sullivan, the filmmaker, before, and he's a really gifted visual storyteller, you know, a real talent, and I felt completely safe in the project with him, you know, as a filmmaker, as a director. And the same with Kate McCullough, cinematographer. We had worked together in the past on a short film, and so there was a bond created. And so for me, yeah, it was just great to work with them again. And you know, it's yeah, hopefully it's there to be seen, you know, that connection.
And that was Cynthia. Yeah, we showed that in Irish Screen America and loved it. You know, that you're a fisherman in that one. So, you know, it's not just thinking about ways to torture you, but they're fantastic pieces of work. They're really stunning. You know, visually and beautiful, and a fantastic performance in Arapt as well. So, I wish you all the luck with it. I think you'll do very well. It'll do very well. Well, we're just to another familiar face for us for Irish Screen America, of course, is Sarah Street, who's just, if you wave out your window there, Donal, you'll see Sarah in Brooklyn, and I know you guys work together as well. And Sarah is from Cork and has been on shows like the Law and Order and Ray Donovan. And Sarah, you to lighten it up a little bit, you have a rather interesting origin story, if you like. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, this is the first SAG job that
yes, yeah.
we're talking about. Oh, geez, you would do that to me, Niall, wouldn't you? This thing seems to be following me around. So my first, it would only happen to me. My first SAG job as an actor here in New York. I played Elizabeth Olsen's butt double, and I got a fine paycheck for it, so no shame. But basically the entire day I was running around, I think it was Brighton Beach here in Brooklyn, with Dakota Fanning, running in and out of the water. And I was basically Starkers, except for a few strategically placed stuff that they put on you. She was allowed to wear a bathing suit. But, you know, it was what it was. But what I didn't know was when I got to the beach, there was about 150 extras who were beachgoers. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, oh my God. And I was chatting to Niall about this, and I was saying that, like, you know, I just did it, whatever. And then I called my parents back in Cork, and I was telling them that I was after doing this, and there was like silence on the phone. And I was like, oh God. And my dad just goes, yeah, sure, fair play. And that was that. Now, it was grand because, like, I knew I wasn't going to be recognizable in it or whatever. You'd have to know me here as well. But but you know, it was just an interesting first job to have, and just like the things we do as actors. But yeah, so thanks for shaming me with that, Niall. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, not to take away from your work, of course, because we've you know, anybody who's been in New York has seen you on stage in Abigail's Party and all. You know, you've done wonderful stage productions as well, and you're curating the first Irish Theatre Festival this year.
Yeah. Yes, myself and another Cork actor, Mick Madamphy, have been lucky enough to be asked to co-curate this festival, which happens in New York every year. The New York theatre community would be very aware of it, and obviously this year it can't happen in the way that it normally does, and the people at Origin really wanted it to go ahead, and you know, despite the fact that we're losing the physical intimacy of the theatre space this year, and they decided that they would ask 2 actors to curate it, which has been great because, you know, Mick and I obviously we have relationships with the Irish artists in New York that are already here. And then we were able to kind of forge new relationships with some of the Irish theatres and different Irish groups that we've involved. And I think this year too, it being a virtual festival, we kind of expanded the mission of it. So we're including, you know, some cultural panel talks with groups like Black and Irish, which is going to be really cool. And, you know, we're doing a video game aspect, which is kind of based around, you know, Irish actors in video games, Red Redemption, Roger Clark, all these people. So I think we still have the theatrical element. We also have films and documentaries, but it's been nice to be able to expand the festival a bit. And I think going forward, you know, we all hope that we'll have the theaters back open by this time next year. But I think we'll also keep that, hopefully Origin will keep that virtual element to the festival, because I think, look, there's people, you know, who can't come to a theater, whether it's age or whatever, or they're just not in New York. So I think this is a good way of making it accessible to them. And I think we'll be announcing in the next kind of 2 days the programming and stuff like that, but some exciting stuff coming up, hopefully.
And keeping the, you know, on your Cork roots, basically you've got a Cork project that you're developing at the moment as well as a writer.
I do, yes. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. This year obviously was a crazy year for all of us artists. So I wrote a feature film set in Cork about a woman who is sort of, I suppose, you know, not really fully in control of her own life. And she, you know, she has kind of a crappy job. She's in, you know, not a great relationship. And she gets a job at a phone sex company that's specifically for elderly people in nursing homes. And that kind of sets her on a journey to self-actualization and kind of taking control of her life and the decisions that she makes and what happens to her. And it's all set in Cork. So yeah, so I have to have a reading of it in the next couple of weeks to kind of just hear it out loud so I can go back and trim the fat and do what I need to do. But it's very much, you know, you know, the background is very, very Cork and very true to my roots. And I'm I'm excited to get it going, hopefully this coming year. So I'll be giving you all a call.
We'll be looking forward to seeing it. Yeah.
Yes.
Sort of jetting across those states to Los Angeles, where Owen Egan, who's the director of studio and production operations at Netflix, and I think while the rest of us were while I was baking bread, Owen was working extremely hard, trying to get take a number of shows down, but which I'll get to in a minute. But I wonder, Owen, of course, you might just think that Owen is young, handsome, and successful off the bat, and you'd be right. But it wasn't so much an overnight success. Owen, can you tell us about what age you were and what your first memory on set was?
Yeah, well, it's good to be here, first of all, and good to see everybody. And, missed you, Niall, and everybody here. It's been a tough year, and you kind of really appreciate what the Irish Screen America has brought throughout the years, over the past while anyway, here in the US, of community. So, miss the community. So, hopefully we get this back in 21. Yeah, how did I get in this crazy business? Well, I kind of grew up in it because of my old man. He is now retired, but he was a set decorator, props, kind of overall involved in an art department on Irish sets. I guess I don't want to date him now, but let's just say past 40 years or so. So my earliest kind of on-set experience would have been being a kid down in Kerry on Ron Howard's Far and Away. So that's dating me a little bit now, but no, I was a young fella watching, the whole summer, them building that little village on the Dingle Peninsula, which, I know people kind of slag off that film, but I actually have fond memories watching it back every Christmas because, you can see the kind of artistry that went involved. But the kind of thing that fascinated me as a young fellow was just the set deck team. It took them months to build that, those cottages, the cottage that Tom Cruise was kind of grew up in. And and then to just have them burn it down just for the magic of the movie business. I thought to myself, geez, this is a crazy business. That's what I want to do one day. So yeah, that's where it started.
And did you know at that time you'd be taking Star Wars to Kerry itself and, getting involved in that side of stuff? I mean, it's sort of, it's incredible you ended up in it,
Yeah, no, I did. I obviously went off and did other things. I went into business and did economics and finance to try to have a proper job. But, how could you leave the circus? You got to come back, So, but I ended up being back in Dingle a few years ago was amazing. And it's just a beautiful part of the world. And just, just putting that on screen, you don't really have to do much work outside of it,
And can you tell us, because as I said, while some of us were bread making, what were you doing? You were running around LA trying to take down. How many shows did you have to?
Well, yeah. So I happen to be now. I'm in the past 2 years or so, I found myself in-house at Netflix. Small startup company in the game, making lots of content, and. Yeah, things were going great up until March when, we first started being aware of this. Actually, we had a production in Italy that shut down. And then it started, obviously, very quickly to spread across Europe and into the US. So that by the time it hit fully, I guess, in mid-March, we shut down over 80 productions. And I found myself heading up the kind of like production planning team and production operations team here. And the main focus was to get everybody home and get everybody safe and protect all our production sets as we stood down, thinking that it was only going to be a couple of weeks. And then obviously then it became about, well, how do we give back, make sure our crews are taken care of if this thing is going to go on indefinitely. And then it became like into the summer, all about trying to get back to work because, Netflix we don't do anything else. We make content and that's it. It's not like Amazon or Apple where you have other products. Like, that's our business. So we definitely wanted to get back into business. And it was just understanding the safety, the protocols, and the testing, all of that stuff that we've all become kind of semi-experts at now.
And how do you do that? When you're trying to get people onto set and all that, are you spraying stuff down every 5 minutes, or how does it work?
Yeah, well, what we did was we kind of we chose 2 projects here in LA that we focused on, definitely partnering with every union here in Los Angeles and the guilds, to making sure that every person involved on set felt comfortable with returning to work. And putting the testing protocols and the PPE in place, that workflow. So we tested it out on, we had Hubie Halloween, which the Adam Sandler project that needed to do some additional photography. And then we also needed to finish up additional photography on Ryan Murphy's The Prom, which actually just came out on Netflix this weekend. So they were where we got a lot of learnings from that, and thankfully they were both big successes, and definitely seeing, it's really kind of Herculean effort that the crews have to go through, like to be in PPE all day long, and managing, production is difficult at the best of times. So what we're doing now is definitely a vocation in a sense. But they were positive experiences, and then we went into Canada. They were doing a little bit better up in Canada with cases, so we did a lot in Vancouver. Got up to another 8 productions, 10 productions. And then, eventually we're back to, 40, 50 shows already. So it's been a journey, but it's really done on the determination of the creatives that we're lucky to work with and the crews. And
there are 1 or 2 Irish shows. Do you want to tell us?
Yeah. So we're in the middle of we were lucky enough to come in and partner with MGM and Octagon on the Vikings prequel, which is Valhalla. So that went back into production in the pandemic. So Irish crew are working in not too far from where you are at the minute in Ashford. And then also we're about to launch a series which the trailer just came out for. It's called Winx. Fate origin story. So that launches in January. That was all shot again in Ardmore and around Wicklow. And we're doing a lot on the animation side. So our friends down in Kilkenny and Cartoon Saloon are doing My Father's Dragon, which is currently in production as well. So we're very busy in Ireland, thankfully.
That's great. It's great. And I believe we're going to get our own studio in Gorey quite soon. So that'll be exciting.
I heard, which is great.
Rachel Rath, of course, is just over the hill from you there in Los Angeles. Rachel is actress and writer, and has been through the whole ringer of has been in Los Angeles the whole thing of it. So
yeah. It's been pretty amazing, Niall, being here, because of course we had the Black Lives Matter movement too. So and then of course with the presidential campaigns going on, it's been a very unusual time to be in America and seeing the shifts of it. And when lockdown kind of eased, I went on a crazy road trip in the 4x4. Just changed the alternator the other day. Thank you, YouTube. But it's insane because you never, to see all of America and to see America, the different viewpoints and how not everybody listens or talks to each other. It's been really quite fascinating. And
what have you been working on yourself?
So I've been tidying up on a biopic I wrote. And there's the first person in the world, first woman in the world to build, design and fly her own airplane. Did it up the road around the corner from Cathy Brady. So I wrote her movie, and it's been getting a little bit of traction. So I'm kind of hoping I can get that off the ground. It's terrible. Thanks, Kathleen. Thanks. But the funny thing is actually because when lockdown happened, I was like, well, I've got to keep working. So I kitted the closet with soundproofing, upgraded the recording equipment, and got a high-speed line in. But the hilarious thing is it's so hot here. You can't have air conditioning. So there's me, and I know a bunch of people are doing this. We all record in our underwear. So I'm thinking about people downloading their Audible audiobooks, and they've no idea that the person is semi-naked. So it has been the strangest time, but you just gotta just keep going, right? But thankfully, I just recorded this one with John Malkovich and Brian Cox. It's called Unsinkable by this writer, John Mawson. But thankfully, I didn't have to do that one in my underwear. We actually had a studio for that one. So that was a relief, yeah.
And that's kind of a new hybrid production, isn't it, really? Because
yeah, they're calling it an audio movie event. So yeah, it should be pretty interesting. I mean, John Mawson, he actually wrote it as a TV show. Well, it was a movie, but it's so epic. It's about this amazing journey. And they actually ended up off the coast of Ireland, so I get to play Irish people, which is great. But then it went all the way up to Scotland. This boat should have sank. It's an amazing story. So it was a TV show. No way it was going to get made as a TV show right now. So they said, let's put it out there. And like to get talents like John Malkovich and Brian Cox, it's, you know, things are definitely changing in the industry for sure.
So they're releasing it as a podcast.
Yeah, it'll be released as a podcast. Yeah, which is really cool. But it's like I think that I saw Carrie Mulligan just. I think she was going to do. I'm not sure if she was attached to this one, but I know she's done another one, another kind of fiction podcast. So I think there's probably going to be a lot more of that kind of thing. Yeah, very exciting.
So we'll go to questions from our audience if we have any. Are there questions? And perhaps while we're working on that and getting those, could we, Eve, would we dare try and show another clip?
Sure.
Sorry, I know I jumped on you there. So.
Okay. I don't know what this is. This is a gamble.
You better not cry, you better not frown. You don't want Santa to burn your tree down. That's what he does to bad people like you. You know he's always judging everything you do and say. And even if you've had one bad thought, then he'll wreck your Christmas day. It's all your own fault. There's no one to blame. Don't come crying to me when your tree is in flames. Santa Claus is coming to destroy you. Oh, do, 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 do.
Well, that is wonderful. Thank you very much.
That is brilliant.
I'm just disappointed I didn't get to do it live, honestly. But anyway, thanks. That'll do.
And well, Kathleen, of course, we won't go into the specifics of when, but you were at the Oscars with Granny or Grimm. What was that experience like?
It was all right, yeah. It was 7 out of 10. No, it was amazing. It was amazing. I thought about maybe bringing a photo, but I didn't want people to see how I'd let myself go. So yeah, it was incredible. The big event, I suppose, which I'm sure everybody here, the panelists would be aware, is the lunch that happens 2 weeks beforehand. So that was almost the highlight in a way, because that's when I got my George Clooney photo. I can send it on another time, but so that was an event, because I had these images beforehand that I would be having, you know, an hour and a half conversation with him, and there'd be lots of random photos taken. That was, you know, going to be how it went. But actually, it had to be kind of set up to my disappointment. And I obviously lost the run of myself. It was like, really? And it was that actress, and I have to admit, I'm after forgetting her name. It's going to come back to me. She was in Up in the Air with George Clooney. She was his co-star. Anna Kendrick, is it Kendrick?
Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So she set it up for me. Yeah. And but there was sorry, name dropping, I didn't mean to, but there was another person there. I suppose that's what the Oscars are for. But there was another person there who kind of said, now's your chance, go for it. And my gut instinct was telling me, don't just approach George Clooney like unannounced. But, you know, so it was like, what are you waiting for? So I kind of approached at speed, and some bodyguards kind of showed up in the near vicinity. So luckily it was Anna Kendrick. I should really remember her name because she did me a huge favor. It was like, Kathleen, please don't do that. Please stop. So I will do this. I will sort this out for you. So she was, yeah. So that was sort of, you know, bittersweet. It wouldn't have been a granny event if it didn't kind of go that way. So yeah, I got my George Clooney photo. That was all I was in it for in the first place. So yeah, it was great.
So Martin Hall has a question for the panelists. He wanted to hear a bit more about how you all see the attraction of Ireland as a place to make films. Martin, you don't work for the Irish Film Board, do you? Okay, I don't think so. I don't recognize his name anyway. See the attraction of Ireland as a place to make films, both for international producers, the money and the global audience. I suppose we should start with Owen for that, and then we can ask some other people.
Yeah, well, listen, I think Ireland, we punch way above our weight when it comes to, you know, creative talent, acting talent, and technical crew. So it's an easy choice for a lot of international companies to shoot in Ireland. You know, you've got Apple down in Limerick on a big show called Foundation. And also, you know, there's lots of stuff happening. Obviously, Normal People was a huge hit here with Element and Hulu and the BBC. So that just shows, you know, that's not just a technical crew. Like, there's great stories being written by Irish writers. So there's lots of reasons to come. I think, you know, what I'm trying to push for is like, yeah, we definitely get more infrastructure on the studio side to help with some of these bigger productions. And then also that will attract other big international vendor companies and camera companies, and then have from third level education get more training for behind the camera, for below the line skill set as well. So yeah, lots more stuff we can be doing, but I think we're in a pretty good position, and just, you know, hopefully now, God willing, in the new year things get back to normal.
And certainly, sort of talking to Donall there, your overnight success, that seems your lots of success this year in different films. But do you want to talk a little bit about how, because you were working both in New York and Los Angeles, and, you know, when you came home to Ireland, that somehow things started to happen for you. You know, you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I guess I'd been in the States from 2014 onwards, and then in 2018 Tom reached out with the Ferraric, you know. So I'd done a lot of independent film really in New York, and was hustling away there. And I'm not, you know, the irony isn't lost on me. I come home, and really, I guess Oireachtas has been the film that has certainly gained the most traction for me. And just to echo, I guess, what Owen was saying, like, I think there's phenomenal talent in Ireland at the moment in terms of crew, in terms of writers, in terms of directors, in terms of actors. And yeah, it's, you know, I'm not surprised that there are more productions coming here. And the landscape, I think, you know, obviously it goes without saying, but what's interesting about, you know, working with Kate and how she shot Oireachtas was she wanted to show the beauty, but not in a postcard way. And I think that's the interesting thing about the Irish landscape, is there's many a way that it can be portrayed, which is hugely cinematic, you know. So.
And it's a beautiful film, but you're also working on a thing, the Donal Ryan book. You've done it just.
Yeah. I have a film, feature film that's coming out that I worked on called Fosca or Shelter, which is based on the novel The Thing About December. by Donall Ryan, an amazing Irish writer, and it's kind of a garage meets Stand By Me. I guess that's the you know, coming of age story, a rural Irish story as well. But that's hopefully coming out festivals in 2021.
Wonderful, yeah, yeah. And Cathy, you speaking of shooting in Ireland, again, like a week into lockdown, you were shooting in Uri, weren't you?
That's right. Yeah, it was the BBC were decided to do isolation stories, which was when everyone was in full lockdown because they were BBC, they were allowed to still operate. So we had the opportunity to do a small short. But when I signed on, I didn't know what the script would be. It was another Uri writer, and we had to find a Uri actor. And we had 2 weeks to do it, to get it all together, and 2 days to film it. And it's just one of those things, you're like, why not? So it was an incredible experience. It was the first experience of really shooting in lockdown, in like kind of really very stripped back scenario. And it was really wonderful to kind of bring it back to the basics of filmmaking.
And you also had to manage that business of social distancing and all that on set, didn't you, at the time?
Oh yeah. No, it was like they were just, it was kind of about, at that case nobody was shooting yet, so it was a case of what do you need and what can we strip away. So I mean, I was capper loading, I was continuity, you know, it's going back to student days. But yeah, even just to talk just about the Irish landscape just for a second, like I think, like, you know, it's in our DNA, you know, the landscape and our love for the landscape. And I think that's what makes us such incredible filmmakers. And, you know, it is fantastic that we have these scale of productions that have been, you know, from outside in this country. But what would be amazing is to see more Irish talent being really pushed to the front of that and leading these major productions. And I think that's what hopefully will happen next in a much bigger way. Because I think, you know, telling our own stories, as Donall was saying, not in a quaint, twee way, but like the real Ireland. I'd love to see more of that.
Yeah, and there's also kind of a renaissance happening with the Irish book writing. I don't see why that shouldn't translate into Irish filmmaking as well. You know, with authors like Donall Ryan and stuff like that coming up. There's just these fabulous. I just want to give a shout out to Orla Keane, who of course is with the Consul General in Los Angeles, and she is the Consul General. The consulate in New York and Los Angeles have been big supporters of Irish Screen America, and they're big supporters of the arts, and they do a fantastic job. And also a big shout out to Nick Cruyff, who's just joined as the consul in New York, as they're you know, promoting arts, arts and cultural affairs. So that's wonderful, and it's also an indication that the Irish government is beginning to put its, you know, or is putting its money where its mouth is, in terms of that you know, we're getting the message out there of what we're doing, and you know, what's happening in Ireland, and what's happening with all of the wonderful things with people. And the interesting thing about this event is, for me anyway, and the interesting thing about Irish Screen America is that this is, you know, this is a conversation that happens, you know, between Donall, who's working in New York one minute and working in Ireland another, or Owen, who's, you know, working in Los Angeles but brings projects to Ireland, you know. So there's this cultural conversation happening all the time, and with America, you know, which is wonderful. We have 3 minutes, Marissa's telling me, so I'm under strict instructions here. I won't get my Christmas dinner if I. Actually, I'll be cooking the Christmas dinner. What am I talking about? But anyway, I just really want to give, well, a big thanks to Eve Collins, who is behind the scenes here, who organized all this and organized the clips and put up with it all going wrong and put up with us. And also Shauna Farrell, who you might know, those of you in LA know well, is back in Dublin and has really helped us here. And to Marissa, of course, Marissa Roy, who's helping us behind the scenes here, and to all our panelists who have just been wonderful. So I think, as somebody said, well, Eve said before, I see what Niall's doing. He's just got all his favorite people in one place to talk to, and that is definitely true. So I'm so happy to talk to you at this event, and thank you all very much for joining us, and give us all a big round of applause, virtually, of course. Do you want to come in, Marisa? Yeah.
Hey.
And with that, we will put the links to the films and to the websites and where you can find the films and when you can find them on an email that we'll send to you for all of those. We'll send that out, within the week, so you'll have everything to watch over the Christmas. And don't forget that the Galway Film Fleadh is doing that wonderful Irish films over the Christmas as well. And of course, Wolf Walkers, please go and look at it and review it and give it a thumbs up, and all the things that we should do for these wonderful films. It's a fantastic watch. So with that, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.